Hello, everyone. I'm Greg Bettinelli, a partner at Upfront. I'm excited to talk to Yunah Lee from GOAT. Won't quite be a little lighter than the last topic, but I think substantially more fun. So Yunah, it's an honor to be on stage with you. As we know, we've had a relationship for a long time, and GOAT is a story. This is multiple times that GOAT's been on stage. First time just you. So as you know, I'm on the board of GOAT, and this is really our board one-on-one, 180-degree feedback, because I don't do 360 feedback, at least well. So let's talk a little bit about GOAT. We talk a lot about it. Love just to get your description of what we do and why we do it, and then I'll kind of lead into where we're going and how we're going to get there.
Sure. Well, thank you so much for having me. As Greg mentioned, my name is Yunah Lee. I'm the CFO and COO of GOAT Group. GOAT is a leading and highly differentiated luxury resale sneaker platform. Since the company's founding in 2015, we've expanded from our core sneaker business to also include luxury fashion, apparel, and accessories. We have 40 million community members, 700,000 sellers. We operate across 16 global offices, and we deliver currently to 170 countries.
So so you sell sneakers online?
Yes.
That sounds really silly. So like that's a thing?
It's totally a thing. So GOAT currently operates 3 major brands. We have the GOAT brand, the Flight Club brand, which we acquired in 2018, which allowed us to become a truly omni-channel business. We have 3 brick-and-mortar stores under the Flight Club banner in New York, Miami, and Los Angeles. And we also have an Alias app, which allows us to have a bifurcated seller experience to sell all of these millions of shoes online.
Yeah, and I say that because I think if you go back in the story of GOAT, it was a transformation from a company called Grab With Us, and it's been well documented. And I think early in its days, even before Yunah joined, nobody thought this was a thing. And it's funny, to the day when we the company raised a Series A from Matrix Partners, there was questions about TAM and how big could this be? Like, it's sneakers, like who, and are they used? Like, how's this whole thing? And even the most recent financing, which was close to a $4 billion round, the questions that the investors ask is, how big is this? An analogy I use is great marketplaces, businesses create their own TAM, create their own total addressable market. Can you talk a little bit about just how, even in your 5 years, have you seen the evolution of how people think about the GOAT business and how even internally you think about the opportunities that sit in front of you?
Absolutely. So you raised a couple of really interesting points. First, when we started out in the summer of 2015, people estimated that the global sneaker resale market had a TAM of only $1 billion. Clearly, if you combine us and a handful of others, we have well exceeded that number. And all of the current estimates we also believe to be very, very conservative. Now that our business has been able to expand into the luxury fashion and apparel space, we're addressing a much larger market. Clearly, the apparel space is trillions of dollars, and there's a global, massive opportunity here. And also, because GOAT sits at the convergence of the primary and the resale markets, we have access to customers that are looking for new, used, luxury, and affordable goods.
And to just give a little context, if you go to the App Store right now with your iPhones, and go in the shopping, you will see GOAT ahead of brands like Nike. You will see GOAT ahead of multi-billion, almost multiple billion-dollar brands, and it just puts in context. And I think, as we described when we originally would pitch this, it's kind of like trading cards for Gen Z. Like every day, if you have kids, anyone have kids who use the app. Well, they trust me, they do, if you don't think they do. But every day they're checking releases. And talk a little bit about just what the brand means. It's more than just an e-commerce marketplace.
Definitely.
A little bit about what the brand has come to stand for. We can obviously talk about what it means. And some of just the context of how big it has become from a lifestyle perspective, not just a place where you can buy sneakers.
Sure. So for those of you that don't know, GOAT stands for Greatest of All Time. And we have been extraordinarily disciplined about the types of products that we're providing on our platforms. And we do not want to become a transactional, broad-based mass platform. And so being able to be very disciplined about how we've developed our brand over the last 6 years has allowed us to gain access to primary luxury supply and working with brands such as Versace, Alexander McQueen, Burberry, Polo, Ralph Lauren. And it's really allowed us to expand our community base and reach a much broader global audience.
How many people, just from a size and scope, how many people work for GOAT?
Right now, we have just under 1,500 employees across 16 global offices.
And the office headquarters is right here.
Yes, Los Angeles.
Right. And just a little, I think I'm one of Yunah's biggest supporters, and she's the COO and CFO. And candidly, if Eddie and Daishin were here as well, she is the MVP of the team. Everything goes through her in some way, and she's a delight to work with. Just a little off script, like, how have you seen your own journey go from being the 30th employee to a company that's now worth billions of dollars, and you are a key linchpin to that? How have you even seen in your own head, how things have kind of moved at the pace they've moved?
Well, I'm overwhelmed by the things that you're saying, so thank you for those kind words. Being able to work with Eddie Liu and Daishin Sugano has been the most rewarding life experience. I'm an immigrant child from Korea and came to this country with very little. So to be able to be a part of such an extraordinary team, have such extraordinary supporters such as Greg Bettinelli from Upfront Ventures, and to see a business grow to touch 40 million lives has been the most humbling and rewarding experience of my lifetime. And I'd say that, when I started out as employee number 30, I was the gal collecting receipts and trying to pay expenses on time. And to now have, participated in raising over $1 billion for this company, seeing it grow from 30 employees to 1,500 employees, and being able to sit on this stage and speak to all of you has just been extraordinary.
So yes. And she won't let me tell you how big we really are. But I was trying to think of an analogy. So there was a time when I would buy a pair of sneakers every month. And as a result of that, I had to get a new bed because we have a bed that there's a shelf underneath the bed that fit all our sneakers. And I now have over 80 pair of sneakers because I still kind of buy. And I think, to give the size and scope, I think the business is far more than 80x where it was when we started. And it's pretty incredible. But it hasn't always been, actually, it has always been up and to the right, but it hasn't been easy. And I think it's important for entrepreneurs and people watching that even when you read about success, and the journey's not over, but read about success, that it isn't without work. It isn't without hardship. You just talk a little bit about just I don't want to say growing pains, but just the evolution of a business that is at scale and it continues to scale, and how that is from an operations perspective of how you're able to balance consumer expectations, seller expectations, investor expectations, et cetera, et cetera.
Well, I hope you all have a chance to meet Eddie Liu and Daishin Sugano, our co-founders, at some point in the near future. But those two are, frankly, the most resilient entrepreneurs I've ever known. And I think that resilience is one of our core features and the reason why our business has been able to succeed and thrive during so many challenging environments. I mean, 2020 is a time that nobody wants to revisit, but 2020 was a really difficult year for us because we were reaching a size and scale that we had never seen before. We had just launched our first international global office in China and in Hong Kong. We were also in the process of fully integrating our Flight Club business and platform, and then COVID shuts down our China team. And then we also experienced a lot of challenges, in the summer of 2020 when we had a lot of unfortunate violence happening throughout Los Angeles and New York and other regions around the country. And I'd say that because the team has been so resilient, the brand stands for resilience, we've been able to survive some of those really difficult moments. And I think, to Greg's point, while we all execute and put our heads down and work really hard, it's not without the struggles that a lot of folks have been experiencing over the last 2 years.
Yeah. I can remember, I think it was the April 20 board emergency board, and GOAT was the last one. If you remember that time as investors, we were nonstop, and Yunah purposely would kind of push out the meeting where we got in the room and said, in effect, no one's ever going to buy a pair of sneakers again. Like, are you kidding? Like, what are we going to do? Like, and she actually talked the board off a cliff, because I think our view was, you think about it, like, who would ever buy a pair of shoes again?
Totally.
The world's ending. And I don't think you were seeing it in your business results. And I think that was one of the reasons why you were trying. And we did, but I look at that as just a moment in time. And I think it's important, like, what happened after? So the shift between, just to give perspective, how the world's changed so fast between April of 20 and really May of 20.
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
business transformed, and maybe talk a little bit about that.
Sure. So, we're entering 2020. We had just launched our apparel and accessories business. We had just launched our first international opportunity with our WeChat Mini program in China. Again, we just launched our Shanghai and Hong Kong offices. And we had actually seen COVID hit our Asian community and our Asian employees first. And so we were a bit cautious going into early 2020. And then thinking about what happened on March 15th when the world completely shut down, we were being cautious and trying to prepare for the moment when everybody stopped purchasing shoes. And it was a really frightening time for us and our business. And then suddenly we saw our community come together and rally and continue to support our platforms and be excited about the culture, which was really just the most extraordinary experience, because we were all anticipating the moment when nobody was going to be buying shoes anymore. It was very unfortunate to have our Flight Club stores experience, civil violence during the time when folks were getting looted. But again, I think the fact that our team was so resilient and we were able to take that moment to bring our community together, it was really inspiring to see folks come and participate in cleanup. It was really exciting to see folks come and engage and interact with our platforms. It was really exciting to see the business continue to grow during such a challenging time.
And just for context, if you were around in LA, it was May 30th, right? When there was the looting, our store was the one that was on every TV show. You could see the Flight Club bags flying in the air. And I remember having Eddie on the phone, and he's like, it's gone. And in fact, it's gone. And the amount of time and work to kind of manage customer expectations, it was great. But I think it's important, and I won't give specifics, but during that time, we didn't know what was going to happen to the business.
Right.
And the context was, I remember, like, we're just going to try, and 2020 will be the same as 2019. We're going to redo our plans, and we're going to be flat. I think it's important, again, without giving numbers, at the end of the year, what happened?
So Greg is going to try to egg me on to saying things that I don't want to say this afternoon, but 2020 was a record-breaking year for us. We achieved record-breaking top-line growth. We were able to get, a global community together, and our international business was growing. Our apparel and accessories business was growing triple digits. 2021 was in fact no different. We had a record-breaking growth year last year, and to see the business continue to thrive in an environment when so many other companies were experiencing supply chain related matters or IDFA challenges, we continue to see our business grow and thrive in a highly efficient way. And I think one thing that we're very proud of is the fact that we've always been such a financially rigorous and operationally rigorous business. We're not a growth at all costs organization. And so for us to be able to achieve record-breaking growth and achieve these milestones in 2020 and in 2021 has been a really exciting time for us.
What she's not saying is, this is the only company I've had in my portfolio that has beat their plan every year. And that includes the year when we thought the business was going to fall off a cliff, and ended up 2020 was better than they even thought before COVID. So that's kudos to the team and what they've done. And it's kind of the story. This is going to be one of those LA stories, and they will talk about it. But I do think it's that you've hinted about the global side of this business, and we don't necessarily see it. But with some context about what's happening to our business in the international markets, both on the supply and the demand side, not just the demand side that we immediately think about. But I think it's interesting just how GOAT has really globalized the sneaker and lifestyle apparel market in ways that most of us couldn't even have the right context about.
Right. So GOAT and Flight Club, we're really a three-sided marketplace. We've got the consumers, the sellers, and the brands. And we're trying to celebrate the heritage of all of these brands through our platforms and working with 700,000 global sellers. Right now, our seller network, frankly, has been growing at such an excessive rate, but our international supply base has been growing at a faster clip than we had originally anticipated. And doing this is so critically important because, as some of you know, the brands will provide differentiated supply opportunities in Asia or in Europe, which have really rich luxury and sneaker cultures. And we want to gain access to that supply and bring that to our additional, global audience of 40 million members. And so being able to provide intra-region servicing, being able to provide differentiated supply is a massive component of our 2022 strategy and beyond. And building a global network for both our buyers and our sellers to gain access to these goods is part of our mission to bring the greatest products together from the past, present, and future.
Right. And as a result, you see, I encourage you to do this when you buy sneakers on GOAT, is see where the shipping label is from. I would tell you now of the most recent 10 orders at the Bettinelli house, over half have come from Amsterdam or Hong Kong versus the United States, which is kind of fascinating. They come just as fast. The price is just the same, but it's really... Could you talk a little bit about even style internationally versus... I use the analogy, in Europe, people don't wear high tops, right? So the Jordan brand, Michael Jordan didn't play basketball in Europe, right? He's obviously big in Asia, but not necessarily in Europe. If you think about basketball as the driver of high tops, you think of the Jordan brand as primarily a high top brand, not always, but it was. But just talk a little bit about how Americans versus Europeans versus Asians have from a style perspective, and you see it in assortment, and I think there's some really interesting tidbits that come from that.
Sure. So, I mentioned the supply opportunity and the differentiated supply, but also the buyers have different tastes, and they all come to GOAT and Flight Club because we have such a strong perspective on fashion, culture, and style. Greg alluded to this, but in Asia, for example, they really like low-top Jordans or Dunks because they tend to be shorter, and so they want to have some more lengthening in their style.
She said that.
In the Middle East, it's really a popular area for the Yeezy brand. And here in the United States, everybody loves Michael Jordan. I mean, the Jordan 1 classic silhouette. And so being able to access supply from, let's say, Asia that has greater supply of these lower mids or dunk styles, or the fact that, Yeezy sometimes is popular here, but sometimes it's very, very popular in the Middle East, allows us to create that global buyer and seller network to bring the products that these folks don't have access to easily. And to Greg's point, allowing us to service intra-region and get these products into the hands of our end consumer in a cost-effective, timely, and very efficient manner is really important for us to provide our premier end-to-end customer experience.
Let's talk, I think, again, one of the most underappreciated parts is the brand itself. GOAT was a term used by others, started with Muhammad Ali being the greatest of all time. He called himself that, which is, but he was right, but it was aggressive. Just talk a little bit, in the wild, I think one of the most unique things in it is this business has been very capital efficient. I think what makes to have a great marketplace business work is you can't spend the relatively lower margin because the take rates are lower, and you can't afford to be efficiently run, spend a lot of money on demand and a lot of money on supply. Right. So razor thin from a marketing spend, if you looked at the P&L. So this brand has grown organically.
Yes.
And I think it's fun just to talk about some of the real life experiences where you see the brand in the wild in things that you might think actually we coordinated, but we really didn't. Do you have some of those stories?
Sure. So Greg is talking about the fact that our business over the last 6 years has been bolstered by such a strong and extraordinarily loyal and consistent organic customer base. But there have also been instances where we've had really big names and celebrities come through and participate and engage with our brand in a way that we didn't anticipate. So in January of 2020, LeBron James posted an Instagram photo of himself in front of our GOAT logo. And that was such an exciting experience for us because obviously we love LeBron James. We love a lot of athletes, but for him to do that unprompted in a non-affiliated way was really exciting for us to see somebody of that caliber want to be associated with our brand. We also very recently, right before the pregnancy announcement, had Rihanna and A$AP Rocky come through our New York Flight Club store, and they just wanted to shop and engage and experience the brand with us. We've had Justin Bieber and Hailey Bieber come through and wear Flight Club gear. So it's really amazing to see how authentic this community is attached and engaged with both our GOAT and our Flight Club brands. And to have those moments have been really special for us.
And so just even more credit. So this idea of the walk-up. So now whenever you watch an NBA game on ESPN, they always show the players coming off the bus looking incredibly fashionable, walking to the locker room.
Yes.
It turns out that the players are usually contracted to wear certain things on the court, but not necessarily off the court. And so GOAT has entered into, it was the Nets, right?
Yes.
Where they literally created a marketing asset class where they enable the athlete to show up what they want, and GOAT is actually part of that. And it has become something now teams and leagues sell at the expense of us because it costs more now. But there's just a continued innovation around marketing. And so kind of as we kind of near an end, like when you think of 2022 and 23,
Yes.
with what you can tell us, like you're on stage next year, what are you seeing that we aren't today? What should we expect?
Well, for 2022, we want to be really focused on 3 core things. First is continuing to grow our core sneaker business, which has exceeded all of our expectations, both domestically and internationally. As part of our international expansion, last year we opened up facilities in mainland China, which has now been quadrupled, Singapore, and Japan. And we want to continue to focus on our international expansion in Western Europe, Southeast Asia, and Eastern Asia. And also continue to focus on our luxury fashion and apparel and accessories categories. You know, I mentioned that we work with folks like Alexander McQueen and Versace and Polo Ralph Lauren. We want to continue to onboard the best brands and curate those products for our community.
Got it. And just like, who has the best sneaker game at GOAT? Like from the team perspective, like, can you compete? Tell me, is it competitive? I just think you guys are literally sitting there with seeing the best stuff. What is it like inside your own conference room or your own team meetings? Are you looking at each other's feet? Are you talking smack about that's off? Like just a little bit of that dynamic.
I mean, this is a very controversial comment that you're making. And I think that I would say I have to give credit to the original, the OG, Daishin Sugano, who started, with this great vision to disrupt the sneaker market. And I think that his sneaker collection is unparalleled.
Okay. That's very political. I could say, I think, in closing, at the very least, if you look at everyone's feet here, they're way better than Upfront summits of the past. So as GOAT has grown, it has definitely progressed. Stuart's rocking some pretty good stuff.
Some good Air Maxes. I see
Air Maxes. Look at Suster. She's today, very good.
I think Off-Whites.
He's got Off-Whites, and those aren't cheap. Like those are legit sneaks. So anyway, Yunah, really appreciate the time. Congratulations on everything. It's an honor to have you up here, and thank you for much for your time.